tradition represents. As you all are talking about for this month, Black Consciousness, past, present, and future, I want all of you, especially young people, to really think about what it means at this moment in history to have a Black consciousness. What it means to think about Black consciousness in the past, in the present, and in the future. The people who came up initially talked about President Obama. We saw that beautiful image of President Obama at the end, people crying, people excited, people overjoyed by the fact that we have an African American as the leader of the most powerful empire in human history. And that does feel good. There's all sorts of reasons to feel good about Barack Obama being president. I mean, we are talking about just 100+ years beyond an Emancipation Proclamation. We talking about 40, 50 years, 43 years past the Voting Rights Act when President Obama becomes president. We talking about just a few decades beyond segregated lunch counters and barking dogs and water hoses. Beyond all of that, a Black man was able to become president just 43 years after our parents had the right to vote and were really able to truly become citizens of this country. One of our own children becomes president. That is nothing short of extraordinary. It suggests that we might live in a country that doesn't just grow old, but could also grow up. But y'all didn't come to Medgar Evers to just feel good. Y'all didn't come to Medgar Evers Prep, y'all didn't come to Medgar Evers College, y'all didn't come to this Black History Month celebration, y'all didn't come to this auditorium just so that you could hear about how awesome the world is, because the world is still bad. You can walk through Brooklyn right now and see police terrorizing Black people on an everyday basis. You can walk through downtown Brooklyn, right, well not downtown Brooklyn, you can walk through the real Brooklyn, the real hood, and what you will see is people who have to go 4 and 5 miles just to get fresh fruit and vegetables, no supermarkets there. Plenty of liquor stores. Yeah. You can buy crack on every block. But you can't get no fresh fruit and vegetables. You can't get a bottle of water. You get a 40, but you can't get no water. You got people who work hard every single day, and the month still lasts longer than their money. Yeah. Some of them work here at Medgar Evers. There's a whole world out here that is bad, family. And what Black History Month prepares us to do is to make sense of the past, to appreciate the journey, but to also be fully prepared to make this world better. Medgar Evers, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, it is your job, it is your charge to make this thing better. So what do we do to make this thing better? Well, the first thing we do to lean on this tradition is to listen carefully. We must be prepared to listen in a way that changes the world. The Black tradition, the Black freedom struggle has always been predicated upon deep forms of listening. We live in a world right now where people like to talk. Everybody got a blog. Everybody got a Facebook page. Everybody got Twitter. Everybody got Instagram taking pictures of their food. We got all that stuff. We got all these opportunities to talk and to exchange terms talking, but nobody's really listening. You see, the Black tradition is one that was predicated upon a sense of democracy, a sense of fairness, a sense of justice. All the way back to the continent of Africa, we always understood that we were better when we understood I is connected to we. I am because we are. And that notion of I am because we are means that we must listen to everybody, but in this world, in 2013, we've decided that only certain people matter. Yes. So we can have a presidential election where Obama and, what's his name, Romney, we forgot about him already, Romney, Obama and Romney, Obama and McCain, all these local elections, they want to talk about the middle class, they want to talk about the upper middle class, they want to talk about the rich, they want to talk about everybody but poor people. That's right. We enter a world where poor people suddenly don't matter. And when you all get your fancy degrees from this school, you all have to remember to continue to listen to people who the world says doesn't matter. Don't think because you get your BA or you get your MA or you get your PhD, that suddenly you shouldn't be listening to the deacon in your church or your grandmama who didn't get to graduate or the guy down the street who doesn't have a house All of these people matter. All of these voices must be heard. They all have something to contribute. So when the world tells you don't listen to the baby mama, don't listen to the dope boy, don't listen to the dropout, don't listen to the impoverished, you say no. I come from a tradition that values listening to everybody. But you see, family, listening is not just a moral and ethical exercise. Listening is also, quite frankly, it's practical. We talked about Dr. King. Dr. King understood the value of listening. Malcolm X understood the value of listening. Medgar Evers understood the value of deep and careful listening. We live in a generation that often doesn't value listening, not only to poor people, not only to people who are historically rejected, but also not listening to young people. We live in a moment where people knock their mothers and fathers off the stage and won't let their sons and daughters on. But we come from a tradition where young people have always led the movement. We like to think of Dr. King now as this sort of grandfather of civil rights, but when Dr. King dies on April 4th, 1968, he's only 39 years old. Now, 39 might seem old to some of y'all, but I promise you it's not. Every year it gets younger and younger to you. But when King dies on April 4th, 1968, he's only 39 years old. When Malcolm X gets cut down in the Audubon Bar on February 21st, 1965, only 39 years old. Internationally, Che Guevara dies in a revolutionary struggle in Bolivia on October 9th, 1967. He's only 39 years old when Fred Hampton is murdered on December 4th. He's a baby. Bobby Seale, Huey Newton organizing the Panthers. Babies in their early 20s. Ain't no revolutions led by old people. Young people bring a cell phone. Then they put that cell phone on Young people bring an energy. They bring a vision. They bring a worldview. They bring something that changes this world. We got to listen to them. Even if we think they're crazy, we got to listen to them. Dr. King said, I'd rather have 100 young people than 10,000 Negro preachers. Now, some of that was about Negro preachers. Can't get much done with 10,000 Negro preachers. Everybody want to talk. I'm going to take my seat in a minute. That's how you know they're just getting started. But it was also about what young people bring to the table. But family, in addition to listening for those reasons, also our struggle reminds us that America has a different response when we're listening to multiple voices. When Dr. King died, I remember his last birthday, he spent listening to Chicano activists wanting to expand the civil rights struggle. He listened to black preachers who wanted to build on the gains of 65 and 64 and even 67. He met with Vietnam activists trying to figure out how to end this war in Vietnam. He met with sanitation workers, or someone had just been mauled in Chicago and they were trying to get workers' rights. Dr. King understood that he needed to listen to different agendas and build our coalitions, because we are stronger when we have people who have different agendas, different traditions, different beliefs, all combined, but we're also stronger when we're not just locked into arms singing we shall overcome, but also locked into circumstance. What does it mean to be locked into circumstance? It means that America has a different response. The black freedom struggle wasn't just about activism and singing songs. We were some of the greatest political strategists ever produced. And the political strategy was not, the political strategy of Brown versus Board of Education wasn't that black people would get smarter if white people were there. IQs don't go up when white people walk in the room. But some books might be in the room when white people walk in the room. Some teachers might be in the room. The school might be there. When King was locked in the army, he didn't understand that America has a different response to white misery. He understood that when John F. Kennedy walked through Harlem in 1960 holding up that black baby, it was dismissed as a campaign stunt. He's just trying to make Harlem happy. He's trying to make Alvin Clayton Powell happy. You know how those northern liberals are. It's like when Bill Clinton goes on Arsenio Hall playing the saxophone, or Hillary Clinton went down to Selma last year and went to a church trying to clap on beats. She almost had it too. But the image of black man, white man, black baby was dismissed as a kind of cheap political trick. Yet a few years later, Bobby Kennedy in '63 walks through Appalachia. He's in West Virginia holding up that white baby as snot comes down his nose and his belly's bloated as he's crying because he's hungry, and we begin our war on poverty. We understood that white suffering is less tolerable in this country. Now, the vision of black freedom is to create a kind of equality. We never wanted to give the gun to the rabbit. What we wanted to do was create a world where everyone had the same level of freedom and justice. A world where a baby in Brooklyn, or a baby in Boston, or a baby in Berlin, or a baby in Botswana are all worth the same. That's what the black freedom struggle has always been about, justice and equality for everybody. Our freedom struggle has been everybody's freedom struggle. Our growth has been everybody's growth. Our expansion has been everybody's expansion. That's been what it's about. But King understood that if we listen and prepare, we can be better for everybody. But it's also about getting America to listen to itself. The legacy of black freedom has been to get America to listen to itself. College students, high school students, before you graduate, make sure you read David Walker's Appeal. Read David Walker's Appeal. It's called David Walker's Appeal. 4 articles along with the preamble to the colored citizens of the world, but particularly and most expressly to those in the United States. I know it's a long title, but it's an important title because the preamble in the 4 articles is modeled after what, college students? Come on. The Constitution, right? Why would he model it after the Constitution? Because that's what the black signifying tradition's been about. Sometimes you can't say things directly, particularly at that moment. So he did it indirectly. What David Walker was saying is, by modeling his freedom, his protest after the Constitution, was to say, America, you made a promise. America, you're modeling a Constitution that promises freedom and justice for everybody, that we're all created equal. Yet you got the slave over here who's fundamentally unequal. You left England under the promise of freedom, and you have the Negro living in unfreedom. That's what the tradition was about, getting America to listen to its own document. Read the interesting narrative of Olaudah Equiano or Gustavus Vassa, written by himself. I know some of you chuckle at the title, written by himself. But understand that at that moment in history, the idea that black folk could write and read was not taken for granted. In fact, the opposite was assumed true. When Phyllis Wheatley wrote poems on various subjects in the 18th century, they said a Negro woman couldn't write that. Written by himself was necessary because at the very same time that America said, we got to make it illegal for Negroes to read, they said Negroes can't read, don't even make sense. If we can't read and don't have the capacity to read, why are you trying so hard to stop us? But those contradictions are the thing upon which black identity has always rested. They said we were lazy, but they made us slaves. They said we were dirty, but they had us clean their houses. They said we were uncivilized, but they had us raise their children. And yet we continue to function. And so when Olaudah Equiano writes that narrative written by himself, and he says, I wholly entreat your pardon for putting before you this literary work so devoid of literary merit. And then he writes one of the great books ever produced in the 18th century. He talks about the good Christian man. He talks about the good Christian slave trader, again, playing on the signifying tradition, trying to say, America, you are founded on this Christian value of loving everybody, what Howard Thurman would call a love ethic of Jesus. You said that all of us are created equal, and we should love thy neighbor. We should be judged by how we treat the least of these, and yet in this country, the least of these is the African subject. Where's your Christianity now? In a country where the first national pastime was lynching. So by the time